I'm Navdeep. My research project is titled Big Tech's AI Dilemma. So I'd first like to start by thanking my faculty advisor, Professor Ghosh, for his guidance and support with my research. As we were completing my project, I actually noted to Professor Ghosh that I think that I opened doors for more questions than I answered. So this is something that I actually hope to continue exploring in my graduate studies. All right, so my project is about the country's antitrust doctrine, which is a set of laws that help promote fair competition in the market. So, in this work, I evaluate how recent advancements in technology have allowed companies to find legal loopholes to any legal reprehension. And so, as a result, I evaluate what economic and legal framework have allowed such a phenomenon to occur, despite the country's historical focus on antitrust. And so, the digital market has become increasingly concentrated, which I argue can only be mitigated through market intervention. So, I will first be evaluating a little bit of a background, focus of the research, and terms to know. Then I will be evaluating the current digital marketplace, applications of antitrust to big tech. And as I conclude, I would like to give some implications for future research. All right, so what is the digital market? How does machine learning play a role in my research? And why is it important? So, the digital market in general, it's any economic activity that occurs on the internet when humans are connecting through technology. For example, e commerce or the value of goods and services sold over computer mediated networks. Currently, the digital market is dominated by five leading companies known as the big tech. Chiefly, this is Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft. And so these five companies have a combined market capitalization in 2020 of $8.7 trillion dollars and a net revenue of $192.4 billion dollars. And so, for example, Google in itself owns 90% of the search and search engine market. And as a result, all five of these companies have been already facing several lawsuits, which you guys may have heard about. For example, Google was sued by the Department of Justice for being a gatekeeper for the internet. Also, Facebook has been under a lot of legal scrutiny for unlawful mergers and acquisitions of WhatsApp and Instagram. But rarely in these discussions does the math behind the curtain get evaluated. What has allowed these companies to begin with to have such an increasing amount of power and influence over the market? And so this is their use of machine learning algorithms to accumulate big data, which they have to use because of their platform-based business model. This means that since these companies exist as online platforms, the way they make money is by matching users with products. And they're able to better match users with products through the use of better algorithms. So machine learning, it's an advanced form of artificial intelligence or AI programmed to gain intelligence independently. This type of technology improves when companies are able to get more volume of user data, which is any information stored in computers. And this represents the main source of power for big tech, which brings me to my second point, which is how does big tech hold an inherent advantage in the digital market? So, because they will always have this inherent data advantage, they hold this power because of high barriers to entry and information problems. So, first, the high barriers to entry occur because these algorithms they improve through user history and volume. So, because these leading companies will always have more user history and volumes, there's high entry barriers for any new firms to the market. Additionally, even if they wanted to create new programs, these programs have high fixed costs with low marginal costs as advancements occur on their own when the algorithms just obtain more user data. As a result, mostly only leading companies have considerable investments in future improvements in AI and machine learning, like Google's AI first approach, which prioritizes technology development for Google. And so, because these companies have this inherent advantage, that in itself is not the issue because that's just them using innovative technology in order to get ahead. What becomes an issue is when they use this data that they gather for anti competitive efforts, or the way they could use this data for anti competitive efforts. For example, with the information problem, because these leading companies have information that any potential rivals or competitors do not have. An example we see this with is with Google. Recently, Google was found to be monitoring users not only when they were using their own services, but when they were using other rival competing applications through on Androids. And so Google is able to gain information on these rival apps and potentially use them to create their own competing applications. With this particular example, it was for email services and with Gmail, but Google has been able to successfully enter various other markets outside of the search engine market using their data advantage, like YouTube or Google Shopping. And so, what policy and legal approaches are currently doing about this issue? So currently, the country's traditional antitrust analysis focuses more on the prices of goods and services because companies with more market power will have incentives to limit supplies and charge more. And current antitrust law, as I do my historical analysis on it, isn't necessarily designed to address changes in technological development and how companies are using big data to their advantage. As a result, big tech, for example, with the Google example, are able to find legal loopholes with their data advantage. And so, unless any direct intervention prevents them from continuing to expand that influence, they will continue to grow as a result of their AI and continue to centralize the digital market. And so, to conclude, my research concludes that since the big tech has a vast control in the market and the current legal framework doesn't provide the tools to directly challenge that unfair advantage, any change requires new policy intervention. And so for future research, it should look towards how big tech specifically use their information advantage for anti-competitive purposes more, and what intervention would look like in dealing with the appropriation of data. Because what we would have to evaluate there is, so what are we going to do with all that data? Who owns that data? And that concludes my presentation. All right. Thank you.